back to Feedback Loop. I'm Joey.
And I'm Jeremy.
And this week we're talking like this for some reason.
We're drawing out all of the syllables.
What was it, last week or the week before we did radio announcer voices?
Yeah,
That was...
it's a fun little quirk of the show. You never know what you're gonna get.
It's more like I don't know how to start this thing, so I just end up doing some sort of weird voice.
Some sort of voice, yeah.
And then I turn it into a thing. That's
fine.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But this week we're talking about the album Sunbather by the band Deafheaven. And yeah, it's a band. I chose it. I picked this one because in response to Slipknot, the Gray Chapter, .5 the Gray Chapter, not just the Gray Chapter.
I mean, it's whatever, semantics.
Yeah, but I picked this one. It's metally, and it's rough in some spots. So I was
in some ways, not in all the ways.
Though. Not in all the ways. Definitely not in all the ways.
Because the Wikipedia classification of the genre of this album is black gaze.
Yeah.
Which is not African American people that are homosexual.
Yeah, no, that's not it.
It's like shoegaze and black metal.
Yeah.
Kind of intertwined, which I didn't really know what to expect from it, honestly. But yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Tell us about what this album looks like, Joey.
Oh, the album cover?
Yeah.
It's just like this pinky, purpley, yellowish kind of. Just it looks like the surface of the sun in a way, kind of gradient.
Yeah, but like a setting sun, not like a high noon sun.
Yeah. It looks like a sunset almost, and it just has Sunbather, but it's stylized like in 3 lines. So it's like sun, and then below it, bat, and then below it, her. But it spells Sunbather, but it looks like sun, bat, her.
Yeah, it's a nice clean 3x3 grid.
Yeah, no, it looks really nice. I know I'm being a little fucky with it, but it looks really nice.
Yeah, and I like the font choice. It's kind of like minimal and like large portions of each letter are missing, but you can still clearly identify them.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like the sun's hitting it from a certain angle, and maybe part of it's in a shadow or obscured or something.
Oh, is that a reference that's in the album? I'm going to be honest with you. This album has black metal vocals.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you who don't know, I mean, it's pretty much what you think of when you hear metal if you don't know what black metal is anyway. But it's like, it's very like...
That's not
all the time.
See, okay, so like death metal and like brutal type stuff is like, oh, and then this is like
growly.
Yeah, and this is like exactly like Jeremy's doing it.
High pitched, kind of screamy.
It's yeah, and I'm just gonna go ahead and head it off because this band, as you noted, they play black gaze music. Black metal, shoegaze. They do not play true black metal, and if you go around saying that they play true black metal,
right,
you're gonna
get killed.
Yeah, we'll just say the black metal community is kind of fucking nuts, at least at its core, because it was invented to literally keep everybody else out. It was like, no, fuck everybody. We like this. It's very insular. It's very, very. Right. I don't know what the word is, but it was designed.
It put a positive spin. It's very close knit.
Yeah, there we go.
They're very protective of their own, and they're very exclusive.
Except they're not protective of their own, considering one of the first major stories about black metal was Varg Vikernes just fucking stabbing Euronymous like 27 times or something. But, let's just
talk about black metal for the whole podcast instead of actually talking about this album.
So, okay.
Give us a history lesson.
Well, way back in Norway, all these people, they didn't really know what to do because it's dark like all the time. So they would sleep for long periods of time. And they would have dreams, of course, while they were sleeping.
Yeah.
And they started to have so many dreams because they're sleeping just all the time that they would do everyday tasks in their dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess a lot of people just decided to take up carpentry in their dreams, and then, I mean, just like you would do it in real life, they would go and build themselves a dream house in
But inside their
but
dream.
inside their
So
dreams.
it's a literal dream house.
It is a literal dream house.
What does that have to do with black metal, though?
That has to do with the first song of this album, Dream House.
Crazy. I
Dude,
did not see that coming. I
uh,
think it's the longest segue we've had on the show so far.
that's because that's the only way I could do it, is if I set up like a literal book
You have to
behind it.
tell a story, yeah.
But yeah,
Dream House
Dream
is
House.
track number 1. I like it.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's
I'm
awesome.
just gonna get that out of the way. I like the tone and I like the sound of this album.
Sweet.
It just this song hits you with that immediate like kind of it's black gaze, and I think it's a very good descriptor of it because it's kind of like aggressive and high intensity, but also very like chill and mellow and like shoegazy. Just the guitar tones, they're not metal tones,
Yeah.
but they're still played in a very aggressive and metal way. And the good old black metal vocal screams come in. Definitely can't understand what he's saying, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
That's okay. And as such, I didn't look up lyrics for any of this, so I have very little lyrical input except for one track, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't have lyric notes on this whole album essentially, but yeah, it's a good cold sound. I know we associate seasons and stuff with albums and vice versa, and I think it's this really like this is the perfect time of year for this album to hit me, and it just I don't know, it feels good.
Yeah.
I really like the chord progressions and the drum patterns and fills and stuff on the song. On paper, I was kind of concerned about Black Gaze not making sense to me, but it really works in a very beautiful way. And because I didn't really worry about the lyrics, I was kind of trying to hone in on some feelings on a lot of these. And this one, it was hard for me to define the emotion in the song because there's this contrast of the shoegaze music and then the black metal vocals and stuff. There's definitely a change in the tone about halfway through. And while it feels kind of floaty and melancholy, it's still a bit darker. And then like the drums and everything fade out except for the lead guitar with a very somber sounding riff, which they do a couple times throughout the album.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like the darker turn when it got like aggressive and angry and stuff was kind of the immediate response of someone dying or someone leaving. And then the more chill part kind of came off as this kind of calm and depressive section to that's kind of following that as well. The rest of the band comes back in, and then it's kind of this weird like acceptance kind of thing is what I got. It's kind of like this ebb and flow. This whole album is kind of like a flow of different sounds, and I think the first track really captures that well.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you like it. I actually like that you didn't look up the lyrics because, I mean, I did.
Right. I was hoping that you would have some context, but I felt like it would be an interesting dynamic if I told you how I felt the song was, and then you explained the song.
That's pretty awesome because I kind of did the same thing, like in my own notes, because with music like this, like I've listened to a decent amount of black metal. I'm not like paint your face sniffing
Right.
dead crows type thing. But you know, I kind of just listen to this music, and I I have about 3 different ways of thinking about the vocals and listening. And usually, whenever I listen to an album like this, I will kind of take the vocals in 3 different ways. And the first one is think of it as just another instrument. It's just another texture on top of it, because there are a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of melody. There's a lot of ambience, kind of atmospheric chill type stuff going on, because it does there's that wall of sound that you get in a lot of shoegaze music where it just encapsulates you. It's just all around you, and it's kind of like a blanket of noise just on top of you.
A very cold blanket in this
Yeah,
case.
yeah, exactly. And that's just what I like about black metal music in general, is it just has that feel to it, that little nip. Like if you're
Yeah.
walking outside and there's no leaves on the trees, and there may be a little snow, but you can see your breath definitely
Yeah,
whenever you
it's always snowy in Norway. So.
yeah, maybe, I don't know. Norwegians, let me know what it's like, because I really want to go to your country. Like that is
Yeah.
one of the few places that I actually
we
want to go.
we should, when we inevitably start making income from this podcast, we need to have a company trip to Norway,
Yes, and
and
we'll
maybe,
write it.
maybe we can record. Oh yeah, were you gonna say write an album?
Well, I was gonna say we could write it off as a business expense, but
Oh
now that it's out there, hell yeah, we're writing
yeah,
a
I
black
was saying
metal
like we
album.
could just record a podcast there, but then you're like right, and I was like maybe we're gonna write an album in Norway. I'm okay with that too.
Dude, there, yeah, you don't see. That's the thing about original black metal is you don't need high recording quality. You don't really need skill. Whatever, just to do it. Like
Yeah, and that's
it's
what's so strange about this album is that like the production value on the music itself is very like clean.
yeah,
And then it's got the rough black metal vocals which are like sound like they're recorded on just the shittiest microphone you can find, and it somehow works. I really like the contrast.
yeah. I agree, and just the way the song starts is it has kind of like an other room feeling. It's very washed out for the first maybe 10, 15 seconds. And then it just hits. And that's
Right.
when the wall of sound hits. And that I just love that because like that shows kind of sets you up for this album very well, I think, just
Hmm.
because one thing I like that this band does is plays with silence and kind of, I guess, not a lot of instruments. They're not afraid to have silence in their songs.
Hmm.
They tone it down whenever they need to and just have like just an acoustic guitar or just
Right.
a piano or whatever. But then they can just hop right back into this full on assault of sound. And I keep saying assault. It's not. It's beautiful, but it's just like there's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of sound. But
So
yeah,
you explained the first
yeah,
of the three way of analyzing, and that like resonates with me how I see most music
yeah,
when I'm listening to it. At least initially, I don't really pick up on lyrics. I know I've said that a bunch
mhm,
because I kind of view the vocals as just like an added layer, an added instrument kind
yeah,
of a thing, and then the lyrics just take that even deeper. Which whatever.
yeah.
So what is
So
the second?
the second way is since you can't really understand what this guy's saying, like I know what he's
Right.
saying, and I still can't piece it together.
Yeah.
And so you can just feel the emotion from it. Like just
Yes.
listen to it and pick up on because you can pick up on a lot of despair. There's some hope in this album, but there's like I get like regret and just sadness and anger. But then there's also some moments where it comes in and it's like you can tell it's like a loss of love, I
Hmm.
guess, is kind of how I
Yeah.
picked up on the emotions at first, which leads me to the third one, which is actually knowing the lyrics and listening
Right.
with
Analyzing the lyrics.
yeah. And the lyrics, at least on this song, it's it's talking about the singer George Clark. He it starts off with a struggle with his struggle with alcohol addiction and how it's kind of affected his relationships, like I guess love relationships, maybe family relationships, it seems. But yeah, that's what it is. And it's just talking about his fight with it.
Interesting.
But the ending of the song actually, because I grouped this song into maybe three parts or two parts, but like there's part 1A, then the middle, like part two, which is
Hmm.
like the acoustic-y, like
Right.
somber part, and then part 1B or something, which is back into the metal
Yeah.
sounding part at the end. But apparently the ending is a conversation that he had with, I guess, a girl that he was in a relationship with that I guess was affected by his alcoholism. And the last lyrics are, I'm dying. Like she told him, I'm dying. And then he asked, is it blissful? And she said, it's like a dream. And then
Interesting.
he said back, I want to dream. So
Right.
that kind of leads into the dream house, and she's describing death as a dream. So it kind of plays into that. And I think there's a tie in later in the album, but it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of got that feel to it, kind of that moody feel, that dark, somber feel that you can pick up on without even knowing the lyrics, I guess.
Right.
And that's
And
just cool.
I feel like some of that, at least in my listening of this album, I don't listen to a lot of black metal, but I imagine that's kind of just a staple feeling of black metal with the vocals the way they are. They're so raw and aggressive and emotional that there's always this kind of sense of like anguish in
Yeah,
them, at least from what I've heard. So I feel like that kind of like seeps through on like every track on this album where there are vocals.
yeah. I agree. There's a whole lot of despair. There's a lot of I hate to say angst because it has a bad
Yeah,
connotation, but I mean angst. Like
yeah,
you're feeling exacerbating your feelings in a way that you're describing them along with like death and like what is it? He describes wine even as what was it? The pour of a bitter red being that escapes a thin frame, a bitter red being. Like
right,
I think he's talking about wine there, but that's I don't know. It's very atmospheric lyrics, I guess.
right. Very, very like metaphorical and
Yeah,
like poetic, and
yeah,
not just being straight up front with what you're saying, but kind of like not really tiptoeing around it either, but just kind of describing it in a very abstract way.
yeah. Painting a very good picture.
Yes, very vivid imagery. Some would say, which if you're into that kind of thing, you might find the lyrics of this album just simply irresistible.
Simply
Yeah,
irresistible.
I started saying it, and I thought about that as I was saying it. I'm like, God damn it.
But
Track number two is called Irresistible. It's not called Simply Irresistible.
it is in no way related to that song.
It is no way at all. But it blends right in from Dreamhouse. Dreamhouse
Mhm.
kind of like fades out at the end, or doesn't really fade out, but it slows down, and they're playing this riff or whatever, and that goes straight into Irresistible to the point where I didn't even notice it changed tracks at first,
Yeah.
because it's blended seamlessly, which is fantastic. I love it when shit like that happens.
Hmm.
For the most part, this track doesn't have any drums or bass or vocals. It's just some like vibey ass guitars, and I really like it a lot. It feels a bit more optimistic than the previous track, so maybe kind of riding off of that, like I kind of got that optimism, kind of the tinge of hope
Hmm.
feel in it. This is kind of taking that and running with it a bit more. If I wanted, this is where I tried to like kind of make some sort of storyline here, and I said I think that Dreamhouse, the previous track, is about the loss of someone or the death of a loved one, or maybe just some sort of breakup kind of a deal, and the stages of grief that are following that. And then Irresistible is kind of finding a reason to be happy or at least content after that fact, where he's kind of like finding something to cling to carry him through like the dark times.
Yeah. It's I like that you went in that direction because that is kind of I think the storyline. Not that there's necessarily like an exact storyline, but
Right.
there's a tie through and the I think the tie through is loss of love due due to outside reasons that are
Hmm.
caused by his maybe his struggle with alcoholism or just troubles with drugs and youthful indiscretions and just not necessarily having his life together, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Which it's a big thing in music. Like
yeah,
I think a lot of people in music write about it, and a lot of people like there's I mean, sex, drugs, and rock and roll is a huge thing. Like
yeah,
people, especially getting into music, end up with a drug addiction.
yeah,
Which
and
I don't know if he's talking about a time before he was in a band and doing had easy access to that stuff, or if he was talking about it as it related to this band or another band or whatever. But
the vibe I get from this is he's talking about whenever he was in a band because there's stuff I it's in a few songs that kind of deal with his career path as a musician or just how that relates to his upbringing, where he wants to be in life, where he sees other people in life, I guess.
right,
But but yeah, it's just cool. That's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this album is it's cool to be able to pick up on what we think about an album before we even know the lyrics because whenever you have clean lyrics it's so easy to immediately be like, "Oh, this is what they're saying. This
right,
is what this song means." But with this it's like you hear it and you feel an emotion and unless you have a really really trained ear, you're not going to immediately know what they're saying. Even if you do, you're probably like this guy, there's some of these lyrics I tried to listen for it
right.
and I couldn't make it out. I could kind of be like, oh, this is probably what he's saying, but I
Yeah.
still had to look up the lyrics.
Yeah, I kind of like that's why I didn't really look into lyrics on this album is because like I said I don't listen to a lot of black metal and I don't want to discredit it by saying like oh it's just noise you can't understand what they're saying so therefore it's meaningless but I get the feeling that like that's how people view a lot of death metal and stuff that to us is a lot easier to understand like Lamb of God
Yeah,
like I can listen to pretty much any Lamb of God song and understand what they're saying for the most part.
yeah,
And that's just because I've listened to a lot of that kind of music. And I feel like the same applies to black metal, where like if you listen to enough black metal, then you'll be able to pick up that a lot of the lyrics more easily. Granted, maybe not in this case because it's kind of shoegazy and there's a lot of noise and a lot of layers
yeah.
intentionally. But I feel like it'd be a lot easier if you like had that background of listening to and interpreting black metal lyrics.
I agree. And you know, you know who wouldn't like black metal though, no matter what?
Jesus.
Probably what? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you know what? He probably wouldn't. Considering, fun fact, uh, back in the day in Norway, the black metal scene was very much known for burning churches.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, once
Did they
again,
did they like bathe in the glory of God?
dude, I don't know, man. They were just so I don't even know. Like I think they were just some really
Angsty,
yeah yeah. I mean really, but
angsty, distraught.
not to discredit anybody's movement, but I think they were just like so isolated and so done with the establishment that they were just like,
Yeah.
you know what, we're just gonna tear it all down. Why not? But then
Well,
then they all got kind of shitty. But you know,
yeah. Well, it's a story. We'll have a black history or a black metal history. Black history.
whoa,
Wow, that was almost dangerous. A black metal history conversation. Just a whole episode where you just talk about black metal
yeah,
because it's fascinating.
it's kind of fucked up too. Like on it, like really fucked up. But you know, the other people who wouldn't like it are all those
Tying it back
all
to
those
the segue that I just totally torched intentionally.
those really rich people sitting out on the beach, laying on their towels, all those sunbathers. You
Yeah,
know,
because you can't sunbathe unless you're rich. Is that what you're getting at here?
I mean, I shouldn't
People
have said
sunbathe in their backyard. It's fine.
I shouldn't have said that because the only reason I said that is because it ties into stuff, but on this song. But I'll
Uh,
get into that when we.
we'll get into it. I've taken it
Yeah,
away on the first two tracks. This is
yeah.
the title track.
I'll go ahead and get into it. And since
Yeah,
I spoiled part of the lyrics, I'm gonna go ahead
do
and
it.
go into it. So, uh, I had once heard Deafheaven described as the vampire weekend of black metal.
I've
And
not listened to Vampire Weekend, so I don't know. I don't know what that means.
me either, but they didn't do it because of their musical stylings. Vampire Weekend, I guess, or they were like rich kids.
Ah,
And apparently these guys are as well. Like they came from money. Not
right.
to not to be like, oh, fucking rich kids
No,
does
I mean
stupid.
it's relevant. It's
Yeah,
context for the album.
yeah. But yeah, so they were born into money, or at least George Clark was. Maybe all of them were. I don't know, but at least their front man was,
Right.
and that had that is something that comes into play with his alcoholism, with his just views on the world, with his views on where he is in life.
Yeah.
If he was grown up in with wealth, and it apparently it is wealth. It's not just like he was rich. Like it's like
Right.
you got a lot of money, but but uh, the song opens and he's driving through, I guess, a gated community or just like a really exclusive neighborhood with like manicured lawns. The opening lyrics are, I held my breath and drove through a maze of wealthy home and watched how green the trees were and watched the steep walkways and the white fences. And he's talking about just, I mean, he paints a pretty clear picture right there, but he's talking about the memories. He goes on to talk about the memories that come back to him as he's driving through there. I guess having grown up in a neighborhood like that, or the neighborhood that he's driving through, and he talks about how he felt in there.
Hmm.
He because he goes on to describe himself as dishonest and ugly through the space in my teeth, break bones down to yellow and crush gums into blood, which seems to be about, I guess he needed braces and either I guess he didn't want them or maybe he couldn't get them for some reason, but of course everybody else in that neighborhood I'm sure was prim and proper and
Right.
like had everything that they could possibly have fixed about them fixed. And he's talking about a girl who he's laying beside. The He says something, it's, I gazed into reflective eyes, I cried against an ocean of light, crippled by the cushion I sank into the sheets. So I don't know, crippled by the cushion, I don't know if that means the cushion of like his life,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
or if he's actually talking about a cushion, but I think it's about like the cushion that money gives you and that he was kind
Right.
of sheltered away from the rest of the world. But he goes on to describe a woman that he loves that he was laying by, who, the way he describes her is, the hardest part for the week was stroking your fingers with rings full of teeth. It's 5 a.m. and my heart flourishes at each passing moment, always and forever. And what I take from that is that she was the quote unquote perfect girl that he was in love with. All the guys were wanted to be with her, and
Hmm.
she's rings of full of teeth makes me think that she's not necessarily like they're, it makes me think of like a lot of guys have tried to bend with her and she's broken them down and like her rings have their teeth on them. I don't know if
Yeah,
that
sure.
makes, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
But
she's carrying the bones of her enemies. You know,
yeah, like
her
something,
victims.
yeah, something like that. And like he was this guy who wasn't the smooth haircut, whatever,
I
braces guy.
think I'm thinking maybe there's some tie-in. So like, there's a phrase that when you cut your teeth on something, it's the first time you do it. So
Hmm.
maybe it's even like a sexual like virginity thing. Maybe she's like wearing proudly the number of guys that she's like had sex with and taken their virginities,
Oh shit,
kind of a
that
deal.
that's pretty. I like that because he seems to be very like, I don't know, the way he says it's 5 a.m. and my heart flourishes at each passing moment. That makes me very much think of teenage love, and teenage
Yeah,
love
for sure.
is normally exacerbated because you have lost your virginity to someone, and that's
Right.
normally when it like absolutely hits the fan, just for sure.
Yeah, it's a big moment in
Yeah,
people's lives.
yeah, but yeah, that was my kind of takeaway from the lyrics.
I like it. Again, it's hard not to feel like the song is sad or angry, but it does feel a little bit happier than the prior tracks. There is another clean section of just guitars, which I love, and
Hmm.
then just as soon as it comes, it gets fucking destroyed by being pelted with all the drums and bass again. It's kind of this like constant battle throughout this album of like the nice like vibey guitars, and then like this wall of noises, this assault of aggression that we've talked about in a lot of the other songs.
Yeah, that, and I love the drums on this album just
Yeah,
because they're just so intense. Like
they are.
in typical black metal music, everything's very simple, and usually they use a drum machine. Even like in,
Hmm.
I think in stuff around the '90s, they were using drum machines, but it's just very thoughtful. Like the drums really go with everything. They really complement everything, and they not only do they complement everything, they elevate everything.
Yeah,
Just the way he plays, it's just awesome.
it's a whole lot of blast beats.
Whole lot of blast beats, but also it gets pretty groovy sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I think their drummer definitely knows what they're doing, and I appreciated it on this album. At one point in a song, I think I called out Zach. I think it's track 5. So we'll get there. We'll bring some shade back,
Yeah.
but we'll get there. Until we do, I think I'd like you to please remember that like I wasn't a big fan of that Hell album and the drums on that album being so aggressive.
Well, how could I forget? Because every time I listen to it, I'm just sad.
You just can't listen to that album. I ruined it for you, and I apologize.
I
Track
have
number 4.
to listen to their other albums now.
I ruined that one album, but not the band.
Yep. Nope.
Track number 4. Please remember. I worked it in there somewhere.
Yeah. There you go.
Starts with some like ambient droning kind of coming in, and then it like has also layers of like reverse guitar playing or like
Yeah.
reverse notes, and then someone talking underneath. It sounds like the guy's French,
He
and
is.
he talks about like a married couple or something that I was picking up. I was really more distracted by slash focusing on the music, so I didn't pick out a whole lot of the words. But I ended up going back and looking up the lyrics for this one specifically. The word love is repeated for a good while because that's kind of like the last word that the guy says, and then it just echoes and echoes and echoes and repeats as this kind of like crackly, staticky sound builds and builds and builds with some other like anxious, feedbacky sounds that kind of get mixed in, and some things get mixed out until there's just this kind of like screeching white noise of like a revved electrical motor kind of a thing,
Yeah.
and then that motor winds down and you hear this kind of lovely acoustic guitar playing some chords as the song, quote unquote, starts like 3 minutes into the song.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which,
that
this is one of the shorter songs on the album,
at
but
six
like
minutes.
at 6.5 minutes, and the first half of the song is just like all that noise and the stuff. But then there's like this droopy sliding lead guitar that kind of comes in that has like a really somber but also kind of sunny feel to it. That it kind of gives me a numb feeling, a feeling of numbness, like you're just like staring off into a void, and there's external stimuli, but you don't really notice it. So like the sun's shining down on you, but you don't really feel it, even though it's there. And I was intrigued enough at that point to hit up Genius to read the lyrics to it or to understand what the guy was saying in the beginning. And it turns out it's a passage from a book. The book is called "The Unbearable Lightness of Being" by Milan Kundera. I'm sure I fucked that up.
That's fine enough for me.
But yeah, so it's a story. At least this passage that he used, it talks about a couple, Teresa and Thomas, where Teresa told Thomas that she could have easily fallen in love with Thomas's friend Z if they hadn't met, if her and Thomas hadn't met, and that kind of like leads Thomas to dwell on how fickle and thin love really is. That just a mere chance of meeting is the only thing keeping Teresa with him, and that there's potentially infinite other men that she could be in love with while she's stuck with him
Yeah.
or whatever. I really like that passage. I really like. I quoted the full thing here off to the side, but I'm not going to read through it because it's kind of long. But it's like harshly critical of love and how fickle people are, and it's very anti this like soulmate sentiment that
Yeah.
seems to be prominent, which I don't know. I really enjoy.
I I agree. I really it's fucking awesome because like you said, people are so fickle about love. And the part that you're talking about with the I'll quote this part.
Sure.
It was only a Thomas said even then her words had left Thomas in a strange state of melancholy, and now he realized it was only a matter of chance that Teresa loved him and not his friend Z. Apart from her consummated love for Thomas, there were, in the realm of possibility, an infinite number of unconsummated loves for other men. And that, it really hits it. Like you said,
Yeah,
it's a,
that's the second part of this passage, and I
yeah,
specifically called that out. It's just
it's
it's
so
good.
good because it, in one swoop, hits on jealousy, insecurity, and the weight in relationships on which sex is placed.
Right.
Like, because the distinction between the consummated love for Thomas and the unconsummated love for everybody else, saying that the only separation between these different types of relationships is the sexual relationship, which I mean I know sounds kind of like yeah, which
Yeah.
like
I mean,
yeah,
I didn't take the consummation to be like an extremely literal thing, and it was more of just like vowing yourself to someone else. So like just the
yeah,
fact that they have decided that they are a thing is the only thing that's keeping her from being with anybody else, and she could have easily done the same thing that she's doing with him to somebody else and
yeah,
not have really noticed, kind of a thing.
but it makes you think.
It does, and with the context of the music, I kind of felt like it's abstract in a weird way, but also cinematic in that it seemed like it was kind of delving into Thomas's mind state, hearing his lover talk about being with someone else, and kind of focusing in hard on the feeling that their relationship is entirely based on luck, seemingly.
Yeah,
And as he kind of like locks in on that feeling, the noise in the song kind of escalates and keeps building and building and building, and then it kind of snaps, and the camera kind of like zooms out of his out of his brain and his mind, and just kind of like leaves him sitting there kind of processing and feeling numb and questioning everything that he never really like thought about.
yeah, and I like how I guess this tied back to the last song in which that girl that he was with who had the ring full of teeth.
Right.
I'm sure he was thinking that about her. Like maybe whenever they were doing whatever, like out being in a relationship, she had mentioned something like this, or just the fact that there were a bunch of other guys wanting her, or that he was the guy that was with her at the time. Like
Yeah.
it just, I think it probably sums up pretty well how he felt in that
Yeah,
time
and
period
again,
too.
he didn't write it, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful inclusion in the album. Like I really like. I'm kind of curious to what that the rest of that novel's about, because that came in chapter 17 of this book. So I don't know. Also, it's read by not George Clark himself. It's
Yes.
actually read by the singer for Alcest, who is another. It's a French shoegaze, black gaze band kind of thing.
Yeah, his name Stefan Pout. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm
I,
sorry,
I
French
didn't.
people.
I skipped right over it. I didn't want to try and pronounce it.
I'm sorry, French people.
Stefan Pau. They drop
Pout.
off. They drop off the last
I'm
syllables of every
judging
time.
by that logic. I think Alcest is like Alcest or something.
Yeah, I mean that's probably true.
I don't know. I don't know.
But,
I don't. I
yeah, because
speak
I mean you
English poorly.
say la vie is CEST. So yeah, you're probably right. It's all
Alcest.
say.
Oh
I'll
God,
say that talking about that shit just gives me vertigo sometimes.
dude, I'm right there with you. And it also makes me want to listen to track 5 of this album,
What's it
Vertigo.
called?
Vertigo.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's serendipitous.
Yep, that's a word.
This track is 14 and a half minutes long. Which still like yeah, it's the longest track on the album, but there were two tracks. Tracks 1 and 3 are about 10 minutes each,
Yeah.
so like even it's not that out of place, honestly. But yeah, this one like it's kind of a journey,
Mm.
and I think this is kind of like the core of the album's back and forth kind of thing, where like it kind of starts with some like clean echoey guitar and some soft driving drums. Again, the drummer is phenomenal in this track, just to like bring life to some of the stuff without being overwhelming. But the lead guitar riffing comes in on another layer, and it kind of feels a bit unhinged mood wise, where like some bits feel dark and moody, and other bits feel kind of hopeful. And feeling, I kind of got this feeling of movement, like he was walking down the street or going somewhere, or something's happening. And then the song kind of picks up, and it's warped and has this kind of watery, kind of melty feel, like your brain is just kind of melting. And then you get this nice clean lead guitar solo that's fucking cool. The vocals come back in for the first time in a while. It feels like at this point in the
Yeah.
album, they've been kind of gone for a while, but it recaptures that feeling that Sunbather and Dreamhouse had with the very aggressive stuff. There's this weird mid-section breakdown that has some vibey guitar and a lot of like tom work on the drums, which I love. It picks back up with some fucking blast beats, and the speed just kind of goes off the hinges. And there are times when this kind of drumming is suitable, Zach Hill. Okay, and this is one of them. It fits what's happening in the song and in the context of the song. And yeah, it's very fast and aggressive and just like spamming a bunch of fucking blast beats through like Zach Hill does. But I think it complements the music better in this case.
Well, you know what? Well, I'll agree with at least one part of what you're saying. You know,
That it's a great song.
that it's a great song and that it fits here.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess I could see like over this simple stuff. It's not like the whole song isn't too crowded
Right.
by it. It works. It definitely works with it really, really, really well. But this song, I feel like it. I get a little bit of anger from this song more than I did in other songs. Like I
Yeah.
still feel the sadness and kind of bitterness, but hopeful parts whenever it's mainly just a guitar or something slightly looking up. I don't know, but I do feel anger more in this song than I have in other songs.
Yeah. I feel like the final push of the song, like there's this kind of like finale to it where it kind of regains its strength and it pushes through this wall after like the music has died down, and you can like hear the vocals screaming when it's quieter and it just sounds like pain and agony, but it comes back in for this big finale as if to kind of like say, fuck you, you're not going to win, I'm not giving up, I'm going to be heard, and I'm going to finish this fight, I'm not just fucking going to give in here. And after that kind of last burst of energy, there's kind of like this victorious section in my mind where he's like conquered whatever it is he's trying to do.
Well, he may have tried to, but I'll let you in on a little secret. The last lyrics of this song are lost in the patterns of youth where the windows shine brightly back at you. So, to give some context to that,
Do that. Do that thing that you just said to do.
I like the very, very first lyric of this song because it talks about what I think it talks very well about his relationship with maybe coming from wealth and now being in a band as an alcoholic. Like, obviously, not at that point anymore. The very first lyric is destined as the servant to the night. And thinking about that from a person in a band's perspective who came from wealth, like I guess he had, he's designating himself a servant, which, as I'm sure everybody knows, is a pretty low.
Right.
Yeah, like you're a
It's
servant.
kind of the opposite of wealth.
Yeah, and to the night makes me think. I don't know. When I think of like really rich people, they're out doing their stuff in the day and they're partying at night. Like they have a day job. They're doing day trading, stocks, whatever. I don't know what rich people do, but whenever he says a servant to the night, it makes me think of somebody out there doing whatever they're doing at night. That's they have to be awake in the wee hours of the morning, like playing a concert at midnight or whatever. He's out there on the streets at night, I guess, and not in a nice fancy house or something.
Right.
But I don't know. This whole song, whenever he says "lost in the patterns of youth," it makes me think about all the things you do when you're young that have such a huge impact on the rest of your life. Like maybe he had, I don't know, whenever he lost wealth or whenever he moved out, he started becoming an alcoholic in his band, and that was the moment that he sees that disconnected him from that. Because it seems like there's a part of him that really wants to go back to that,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's a
Because it's comforting. It's the comfort of the pillows or the cushion that he referred to in the third track.
yeah, and Sunbit, yeah, so third track, yeah. But then there's also the way he talks about it. The way he talks about wealth makes me think that he doesn't want to go back there, that he doesn't like it, which is understandable. I'm sure if the way he was talking about that girl that he liked, comparing himself to her, if he's comparing himself to everybody that comes from that world, then
Right.
that can't be a good feeling. And if he's talking about them as if they're these judgy elitist people, then he probably doesn't want to be a part of that world. But
Yeah,
it's
and furthermore, I think that he probably put some amount of blame on them. Like
yeah,
he was raised in that kind of lifestyle, and then he got out of it and he turned to drugs and alcoholism and stuff like that. So I'm sure he like some part of him, maybe even just subconsciously, like is putting blame on his family and society and stuff for like having him being raised in that environment,
yeah,
kind of a thing. And also, there's this like teenagers love to rebel. Like
yeah,
it's a thing that the teens do, and like I don't know what age range he's kind of reflecting on here, but I mean he says lost in the patterns of youth, so like it's very much the core of rebellion to like say fuck you and all of your money. Like even though I was raised in it, like it's fucked up and I don't like it, kind of a thing. It's a very like angsty thing to do.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And to give context to where the windows shine brightly back at you, a line before that is a slave to reality under a monarch in the sky, which the windows shine brightly back at you makes me think if you're looking at windows in the night, like the monarch in the sky makes me think of like the top level, the penthouse of a building, and he's trying to look through the windows at these rich people, and it's just the lights are shining back, or there's neon signs on top of this building, or whatever. It's just shining back at him down on the ground, but he's trying to look up into it, and
Yeah,
it's the monarch in the sky just doesn't paint a good picture of the people that are in that building.
yeah, they're in their ivory towers,
Yeah.
looking down on the world because they're better than them. So I didn't mean to bum you out that bad, man.
No, it doesn't bum me out. It makes me angry.
Yeah, well, maybe you should just go take a breather and go look out a window.
Look out of windows.
Yeah, what? Huh? No, I didn't
What?
say that. Window.
I will look out of multiple windows.
Track number 6 is called Windows.
Hmm.
This one I really like. This track.
Hell yeah.
It's got some like really dark piano that's kind of vibey, and it's got some like reversed notes as well, kind of bringing that kind of back in. I mean, anytime you hear a reversed instrument, it like sounds eerie by nature
Yeah.
to us. So like, I don't know, it's kind of a cool feel. And then they're like clips of what sounds like someone scribbling notes throughout the song. There, you hear like a conversation that sounds like it's happening on a street, maybe like a drug deal. This is kind of what I was getting out of it. I wasn't totally like zoned in and listening to what was being said, but it kind of gave me that feel. And then there's like a street preacher talking about hell and revelations and everything kind of like being layered under and over it. And like, I don't know, the music is very like ominous and calm and daunting. And it kind of like, assuming just from the song title, it seemed like he was talking about conversations that he's heard outside his window or whatever, where it's kind of like making the song reflective about society as he sees it, where it's this juxtaposition of sinner and saint, where there's the guy that's trying to convert people and talking down to people and telling them that like they're going to hell, versus the people that are just like so involved in the seediest parts of society.
Yeah. So you were right about the drug deal. It's actually a recording
Nailed it.
of their guitar player. But I guess from what I had read, because I was looking it up, I was like, where did this come from? Is this just like something simulated that they
Right.
were like, this would be a
Yeah,
conversation?
actors.
Yeah. But it's, I guess, a recorded drug deal between the guitar player and some guy trying to sell him opiates of some sort. I'm
Sure.
sure. I'm sure if you knew more about all that stuff, like at one point he says like 8 215s. The only I don't know, like what does that
Right.
what does that
It's all
mean?
street slang.
Yeah, he's like I have $60. That's enough for three. I don't fucking know. Like I don't know what that means, but somebody probably does. And I mean, just the rawness of it mixed with it's not even a regular preacher, like you said, a street preacher, like a fire and
Right.
brimstone. He's out there. Pre the verses that he's saying are all of them are regarding hell.
Yeah.
He's talking about Jesus talked about hell more than he did. He spoke more of hell than he spoke of heaven, and talking about how you want God's mercy to keep you out of hell, and that you just need to believe in the gospel. It's like the scare tactic part of religion is what he's preaching, and
Yeah.
that next to somebody who's at such a low point in their life is just really raw.
Yeah. I think it's a very like meaningful juxtaposition and contrast. And I don't know, like that coupled with the kind of calm and ominous music really does it for me. I like the track a lot.
I do too. And you know what? It makes me want to go outside and sit underneath a tree and think long and hard about my life. Maybe,
What kind of tree?
you know, I've been eating pretty healthy lately, kind of. So maybe some good fatty something with some fat in it, like a pecan, maybe a pecan
Yeah.
tree.
Are they? I don't know if we have pecan trees around here though.
Yeah, I don't. I've literally never seen a pecan tree. I didn't even know pecans grew on trees. Like
Also, yeah, me either. But I'm glad that you're the one that took the lead on that, because I was curious how you pronounce the word pecan.
pecan. I'm not southern like that.
Yeah, I was just curious because there, for everyone else listening, there are several people that are adamant that is pecan.
It is. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's either way. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know what the proper way is, and it's language, so whatever. But
It, as
I've
long as
always I've always said pecan, and I'm
yeah,
glad to feel validated that you also say pecan.
I think more people say pecan than say pecan. But really, is that's the thing about words. Words are just sounds, and as long as you can understand the meaning that's trying to be conveyed, it really
Yeah,
doesn't fucking matter that much.
agreed.
So, all you pecan people out there, don't be dicks about it, and all you pecan people, don't be snotty about it.
Yeah,
We'll just we'll just all live together in our nut lives
in our pecan tree.
in our pecan tree.
But yeah, this one like instantly just punches you in the face. It goes back to the high intensity blast beats and the screaming. that a lot of the prior tracks had. I really like the chord progression on this one. It's got some like Floyd Rose like whammying stuff to get some really melty sounds that
Oh
are
yeah.
drippy, and I really like it. It's kind of hard to place this one mood wise for me because again, it seemed like it had some like, more happy and optimistic sounding sections, but also some more like sad ones. And I don't know. I kind of got the idea that this track is supposed to be like a final acceptance of both the good and the evil, the happy and the bad. That's kind of been sprinkled throughout the album.
I like that you picked that up because, I mean, while there is more bad than good, it seems, based off of the lyrics, that's kind of that's the emotions that I felt before I knew the lyrics. By the
Right.
way, but yeah, this song is about the acceptance, or just not necessarily a happy acceptance, I guess, but the acceptance that alcoholism is in his blood. He's comparing himself to his father in this song, who I guess
Okay.
his father was an alcoholic, and talking about it's in my blood. I mean, the last lyrics are, "I am my father's son. I am no one. I cannot love. It's in my blood." But kind of the way he's framing it seems like he's accepting it in a way that maybe it will change
Right.
in the song. But
Yeah. I mean, to conquer your fears or to grow as a person, you first have to kind of accept where you're at. So I think that's kind of
yeah,
a good sentiment.
but I definitely like music wise, just how intense they get immediately. Like you
Yeah.
said, it hits immediately as soon as the song starts back into the blast beats, the just extremely fast, like picked guitar. I guess it's like whatever the up and down tremolo picking. I guess that's what it's called whenever you do
Sure.
like, like really fast of the
Yeah.
same note. I don't know. I play guitar and I don't know, but but yeah, it's just it hits you with the wall of sound immediately, and I just like how they can go like the flip of a switch back to it. But then they also like in this song, I guess it's around 4 minutes. They change and the reverby kind of lonely guitar comes back again, and then they do this like really nice build back to
Yes.
back to like 8.5 minutes where it finally hits for the big ending, I guess, of the
Right.
album.
That big ending kind of like it felt like a good section of closure
Yeah,
where he's like we kind of said, he's not necessarily happy and saying like, yeah, this is who I am. Fuck yeah. But it is that kind of closure, that kind of feeling of like, this is who I am, and now I can like move on from now that I've accepted that. I'm allowing myself to move on from that.
yeah, definitely. And acceptance, I think that's one of the 12 steps or something.
Yeah,
So
it's something.
I don't know,
I'm
but
not an
it's
alcoholic. I've never
yeah.
been to AA, so
I
You must forgive your brother.
that's all I know. That's all I know about
that's not even that's not even from real life.
it. I know. It's a Metalocalypse reference for
Yeah,
those listening.
but
Go watch that show.
listen to this album, watch Metalocalypse. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Overall, I really really like the sound of this album. There's a nice contrast of like the chill guitar tones and then the screams and then the drums that really just it all comes together in a way that I wasn't anticipating. I definitely want to listen to more of their music and spend more time with this album. That being said, I do feel like a lot of the sections of the upbeat and the fast guitars and the drums and the screams and stuff are pretty indistinguishable from
Yeah,
each other. So like I feel like you could play one of those sections from any number of these songs and I wouldn't be able to tell you which song it was from. But I don't know, and part of that is to blame on how well it's mixed. A lot of the songs kind of flow together and blend into each other, which doesn't necessarily help with demarcating the songs from each other, which is fine because it lends itself to this full album concept kind of deal. But it definitely makes it hard to distinguish when a lot of the music sounds so similar.
yeah. This album, it definitely is made, in my opinion, for a full listen through. Like you have to listen to the whole album because, yeah, it's like a palette that just continues throughout the whole album rather than being made up of different songs that
Right.
are their own world in themselves. This is just like it really could just, in my opinion, be one long song, one
Yeah.
hour
And
long
I
song.
think that definitely like I think they could have done something like we can bring it back to Mastodon on Crack the Sky, where they had like the czar, the whatever,
Oh yeah,
the 3-part song kind of a thing. Like I feel like that could have like this, like you said, this whole album could have been one track, and they could have just like had it off in sections of like, okay, this is when this is happening, this is when
Yeah.
that's happening, kind of a deal. Because I mean, again, there are 4 tracks that are over 9 minutes long
yeah.
on this album, so like it's an hour-long album. There's 7 tracks,
Yeah.
which like they're very long songs to begin with. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's not necessarily a bad thing that I wouldn't be able to tell some of them apart, because like you said, it's building this theme musically that is scattered throughout the album, and that feeling is supposed to return in those moments, kind of a thing. But I don't know. Usually when I'm listening to an album, well, I don't know if that's fair. I was gonna say usually when I listen to an album, I want a clear distinction between songs. But again, I don't know. Concept albums get a pass, I suppose. I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way at the moment, but now I'm kind of reflecting on it and thinking that I'm just kind of a dick.
Hey man, we all experience music our way. So
It's true. We're gonna experience it my way or the highway.
boom, my way or the highway, and then they'll ride onto my house, and I'll experience it my way, and they can just stay at my house.
Oh, why? How many people do you keep in your house, Joey?
None. I have no people in my house, officer.
Wow, that got a little dark.
Yeah.
Next week on this podcast, we're going to be talking about the album that we're going to be listening to this week, which is actually last week for the people listening to this episode, but that's a roundabout way to say. Next album we're doing is Eat to the Elephant by A Perfect Circle, which it's their newest album that came out in 2018, I think, which I haven't actually listened to any of their other albums. I've heard songs of theirs. And for those of you who don't know, somehow A Perfect Circle is like a side band of Maynard James Keenan, the singer of Tool. So it's got him on vocals and doing a lot of the songwriting, if not all of it.
Yeah.
But this album, like, I don't know, it hit me at a good time, and I listened to it. I saw them live, and it changed my opinion on Maynard James Keenan's bands in general, to where maybe I like them a little bit more than Tool now, but I feel like that's going to get a lot of hate. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about Eat the Elephant, because I fucking love the album. So stay tuned for that. Listen to the album with us, and let us know what you think about it. Let us know what you thought about this album. You can hit us up on all the Instagrams and the social medias, the Twitters and stuff like that. Leave us some comments. Shoot us an email. Shoot me a text. We can talk about this shit. Joey likes to talk about this shit too, but you probably don't have his number.
Yeah, nobody knows who I am, even. You've heard of me in passing like some sort of fabled creature.
You are the fabled creature. You're the mascot of the feedback loop. You're the feedback loop fable.
Dude, yeah, I'm the mascot. I want to be the mascot now.
Our logo is going to change. There's just going to be a picture of your face.
Dude, please do. That way I can branch out and make all sorts of merch with my face on it.
Because that's what you want, is your face plastered all over the place.
That's fine.
But yeah, let us know. Keep talking to us. We like doing the show without talking to you guys, but I really would love to have this conversation with a wider audience.
I'm not good enough for you, Jeremy. Is that what it is?
No, I mean, until next time, stay in our feedback loop.